Hello, welcome to the More People presentation for the 2020 IFST Student Launchpad. A few things to run through today very quickly by way of an introduction, just to tell you a bit about who we are. More People is a specialist recruitment company. We've been in the industry for a long time, and we cover primarily the food, fresh produce, horti and ag industries. A bit about our sectors. We cover lots of different positions across all of those sectors, right the way through the supply chain, supermarkets through to manufacturers and growers, and then into farming. My name's Andrew. I'm the Managing Director at More People. I've been here for 10 years and have been involved in the IFST student launchpads right from the very beginning.
And I'm Morton. I've been at More People for 9 years, and I had a career in the produce sector prior to that, so I helped to recruit for the roles I used to work in. So today we'll talk a little bit about how students can best prepare themselves for gaining their first role and how they can ensure they stand out from the crowd, which is something we all obviously want to try and do and is the key question. So what can you do to add experiences to your CV? Our advice, especially at a graduate stage, is that you look at all your experiences, everything you've done, be that sporting achievements, part-time roles that you've maybe done, modules that you've done that you're particularly pleased with. And I think it's knowing how to tell a story. Some of the best CVs we see tell a good story. They have an intro, they have a middle, they have an end, and you can really see the flow of that through someone's career. It's really important that you inject a bit of personality into your CV. Don't just make it very business-like. Don't just put words in there that you wouldn't normally use. It's really important that you get across who you are.
So on CVs, conscious obviously we've only got a very limited amount of time to talk to you today. It'd be great to spend an hour or two on all these topics, but obviously not something we can do today. But conscious we want to give you some tangible take-home messages really that you can put into practice. So with regards to your CVs, I guess the simplest advice is to keep it simple, keep it clean. Avoid too much flamboyant, flowery language. Make sure that you're using your word count in the most effective way. And that can even extend to things like how you're using titles, whether you're mentioning things like references on request. In my opinion, it's a bit of a waste of a word count, waste of space, really. Spend the time instead on things that add real value. So things like your personal statement, the opening part of your CV, real massive opportunity for you to add value when it comes to your personal statement. The key advice for me, which we talk about a lot when we do these workshops, is to make sure that you evidence the claims that you're making. So when it comes to covering lots and lots of superlatives, when you're listing the attributes that you have, for example, make sure that you can evidence that you've got them. It's not just an exercise in listing that you're punctual, driven, personable, hardworking. I think it's important to find those examples, as Morton said, from wherever you can find them in your career history, to demonstrate that you've got them and that you stand out differently from your peers. And that's ultimately what's really important when it comes to a recruiter or a decision maker or an HR person reading your CV to understand truly who you are and what you're actually about.
When it comes to another important factor, I think social media clearly is becoming more and more important across all areas. I think you need to consider what your social media presence is. It's all well and good having a very professional looking LinkedIn profile, but if you then search around a bit and have a kind of wild Facebook profile, the two aren't going to marry up, and you could very easily get judged. And in a very, very highly competitive market, then these are the differences that can make a big impact on whether you even get met, let alone whether you even get the job. Equally, if you don't have a social media presence, are you conspicuous by your absence? I think it's far better to have some presence and be in control of it, and then also consider the privacy of the accounts that you have, as opposed to just letting everybody see everything without any real control on it.
In terms of adapting the CV to match the person specification that you'll see set out in adverts, I think this is a really easy, quick win again for when it comes to sending your CV and catering it to individual applications. So one point I would make is to make sure that you use the same language that the employer uses. So when it comes to the screening process, your CV stands out as being a clear match, and the person reviewing the CV doesn't have to search for synonyms or similar examples from experience that you've got. Make sure it's really there as a standout, clear match to the job spec, the key attributes, their values. Ultimately, I think what you have to bear in mind is that people are looking to find a good match. So if you are speaking in the same tone as that particular company, it's likely they're going to look at your CV and think, here's a future employee. So do your research with the values, use the job specs to your advantage, and make it easy for that decision maker to identify that you're right for that particular job.
As far as the pros and cons of applying to adverts versus sending speculative letters, I think you've got to weigh up the benefits really of all of them. So utilize your network and ask for help. I think you'll find that if you ask for help, people are more than willing to offer it. I think most people remember being in your position, and certainly everyone we speak to who have got to a point where they are a key decision maker recognizes what it's like when you're starting out. So I think don't think of it as if I don't get a job offer on the back of a speculative approach, therefore it was a waste of time. I think it's far better to think, what could that actually generate and what ripples does that create, which are ultimately going to help me get a job down the line. It's far better to be seen and to be seen to be active as opposed to just sitting around waiting for someone to ring you with the right job. That said, if there are jobs out there to be had, then apply for those as well. I think the truth of this matter is there is no silver bullet. You have to do a bit of everything in the right way. Make sure that you don't become a pest, but do it in a way that you think, am I putting myself across in the way that I want to be seen?
One thing we're often asked to talk about when it comes to the student launchpad is the pros and cons of chasing a big brand versus a lesser known food business. And I think there's obviously benefits to both. One key point that I'd make is that you don't overlook some of the smaller businesses. A lot of the industry is made up of SMEs, maybe even smaller than that. Lots of businesses are own label, so don't perhaps carry the same brand presence that you would recognize with some of the big hitters. And there's significant benefits to looking at all of those things. So if you have a very defined role as part of a grad scheme, that can be very, very helpful. It can be structured. It's good to have the brand on your CV. Does it lead to being a small cog in a big machine? Possibly. Versus the potential to have a role with lots of variety and arguably responsibility in a smaller business where you're more important to them because they have fewer of them. So again, I'd urge everyone to be open-minded. I'm sure the theme of the day today will be very much about being open-minded, and that's really key, I think, when it comes to evaluating all the options available to you as you start to go into the world of work.
And then something that we see more and more are assessment centres cropping up, but even interviews in general and how best to prepare for them. Use Google. It is a tool that has, relatively speaking, only been around for a short period of time, but there is a ton of resource on there. Look for videos, look for, as Andrew's just said, look for values, behaviours, the sort of key things that they want to see. Prepare, just keep working on it. You can't spend enough time on it, really. Work on your weaknesses as well, because you're bound to get asked it. It's a favourite thing. If you can know what your weaknesses are and how to overcome them, then that's a really important thing. Get out of your comfort zone and recognise that probably everyone in the room is feeling the same as you. It's always a bit awkward. The people who succeed are the ones that kind of get out of that feeling as quickly as possible and recognise we just need to get on with this.
So that pretty much wraps up the 10-minute whirlwind that we have a slot to do. For Morten and I, doing anything in 10 minutes is pretty much impossible. We could talk to you all day. What I would suggest is if anyone has any further questions, please do contact us. more than happy to help. There's no charge to anything that we do. This is very much about supporting the industry for everyone's benefit. So please take our contact details. You'll find us on our website. You'll find us on LinkedIn. Please do reach out if you have any questions or want any help at all. We'll be more than happy to help. Otherwise, thanks very much and enjoy your day.
Take care.